dated 17th September 2008 on this very aspect has never been actioned more than a decade later. They had indicated that it should be very easy. The moment someone gets an ID, they should also be registered as a voter, but that seems not to have been done until now. The format of the referendum question, I would say with respect, again, I agree that lumping all those questions together brings a problem. But first of all, the argument was made that the judges should not have told the IBC how to go about it, because that is trying to control them. But I suggest that I do not understand independence of commissions to mean that they are anyway beyond being told by the courts what the law is. Now, if I may pause here for a moment, it becomes clear that some amendments to the Constitution do not require the involvement of the people generally at a referendum. And one of the problems with the IBC bill is that it contains both matters that require a referendum and others that do not. It contains multiple and altogether way too many proposed amendments, some of which would require a referendum while others do not. The confusion becomes intolerable in that a bill is prepared containing provisions that from their different proposed impacts requires two different tracks for enactment. Indeed, because of the numerosity of the questions, I think I have said that I do not for a moment think that it was ever the intention of the people that amendments to the Constitution should be the normal done thing whenever we feel the urge. It should come rarely, and even then when compelled by the greatest necessity. And for that reason, an amendment should come singly, once, rarely. If for any reason, and I cannot readily conceive of any, amendments must be brought other than singly, the original intent must be maintained by having each amendment presented separately and distinctly to be voted upon independently. That way, the choice presented to the people is not a binary one, and the people do not have to feel ramroded into choosing what they do not like alongside what they like, or vice versa. That Hobson's choice may perhaps be avoided by way of a multi-option referendum, but I will refrain from making any conclusive findings on it in the absence of a referendum act, the desirability of which I have already addressed under the rubric of legal and regulatory framework. I have taken the view that whereas Section 49 of the Elections Act does envision multi-question referendum, I would think, however, that whereas the section applies to referendums generally, the specific proposed constitutional amendment under People's Initiative in Article 257 must be presented as a single amendment at a referendum for the people to either approve or reject. On the whole, therefore, I do find and hold that the learned judges were right in holding that specific proposed amendments must be submitted as separate and distinct referendum questions. I would only preface the relevant part of the declaration by the words must be presented singly, or I would in any event reject the grounds of appeal preferred against the holdings on the structure or format of the referendum question. I've taken the view that having too many of them in one question amounts to an interrogatory overload. On the question of constituency, apportionment, and delimitation, I note that IBC, which to its credit has not appealed against the findings of the learned judges on the aspect of the case, is required under the BBI bill to determine the boundaries of the